Hello everyone and welcome to the Cultural Diplomacy podcast. I am Catalina Damian, your host for today. It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce our guest, Her Excellency Mrs. Debora Leticia Ojeda Valedón, Ambassador of the Republic of Cuba to Romania since May 2022. Hello and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for accepting our invitation to this first podcast that launches the series of podcasts, Cultural Diplomacy podcasts. And thank you also for hosting us in this magnificent location, which is the residency of the embassy. So it is not by coincidence that we choose this day for the podcast, because today is Cuba's National Culture Day. So, what can you tell us about this special day?
Wow. Well, thank you first of everything. Thank you so much for the invitation and for allowing us to participate in your podcast. It's an honor also for us. The Cuban National Culture Day is the 20th of October every year since 1980, when it was established like a National Culture Day, because in the same day, but of the year 1868, the national anthem was sung by the first time. It's said in the history that Perucho Figueredo, who was the one who wrote the lyrics of the anthem, was participating in the fight to liberate, to free a city. Bayamo is the city in Cuba, and the inhabitants of the place were so happy that were not singing, but intoning a march. That was the music of the anthem now, and he, on that happiness, on the horse, he wrote the lyrics of the national anthem, and from that day on, those lyrics and music is our national anthem. Was sing that day, and that's why this is the Cuban National Culture Day. So that's the reason.
Cuba has a very rich cultural and artistic heritage, from music, like you said, to and dance to literature. In your opinion, what are the cultural elements that unite the Cuban people the most?
Well, Catalina, Cuban culture is a mix of cultures of other places. First of everything, Aboriginal cultures elements are still on our daily life, even though after the colonization they didn't survive. I mean, the Aboriginal people, they didn't survive. But some elements of the culture are still here with us. And also, of course, the Spanish traditions, the African traditions, because they were brought to Cuba as labor force, and also Chinese, because we have minorities in Cuba, not only Chinese, because we have, for example, talking about religions, Cuba is a country mainly Catholicism is the mainly religion that is professed in Cuba, but also there is a large part of the population that practice African religions, but there is also Buddhism, Judaism, Muslims, the Orthodox. There is everything here. So Cuba is a mixture, and those elements are present in the music, also in the cuisine, in the kitchen, in the dances, in the traditions, and I believe that. For me, in my opinion, the elements that unite most the Cuban people is music and dance. It's impossible for a Cuban to feel or hear a song of maybe a rumba or
and stay still.
And stay still. It's impossible. It's impossible. I have to tell you that maybe you can see the person still, but inside you're moving or humming the song. So I believe that. But it's not only that. It's also paintings like you see. This one here is a very famous Cuban painting that is alive, and you see it's an African subjects there. And it's also theater or movies or whatever you mentioned. And there is something from those groups of inhabitants of Cuba that are present in the culture. So it's a mix. That's why it's so interesting.
I understand. How would you describe Cuban culture to someone who has never visited Cuba?
As I mentioned, like a mix. They cannot wait to see only one expression. They have to be open-minded to see something that they will say, oh my God, this is African, or something that is Chinese, or something that is from Europe, because it's Spanish. The architecture in Cuba is very eclectic, it's beautiful. And well, they have to be ready to hear people speaking very loudly, very loud, and people laughing loud, people having a great time, because we are always having a great time and making jokes of everything, even in the disgrace. So this is the Cuban culture, and people, I believe, are getting in love with that when they visit Cuba. We have tourists that have been visiting Cuba for a long time, and maybe sometimes some of them have been in Cuba 40 times, and I believe because they got in love with Cuba, the culture, and the people, which is the most valuable things that we have.
And the cigars and the
Of
rum.
course, cigars are part. Cigar, rum, dance are part of the whole the culture complete, the whole package. Cigars are very, very important in our culture. Also, those are Aboriginal elements, you know, because when the Spanish came in Cuba, the Aboriginal people were already smoking something. They didn't know what it was.
Okay.
And it's something that still is there, you know. That painting that you were enjoying first is about the place in Cuba where we grow the best cigars, the best tobacco, the leaves to produce the cigars. Pinar del Rio, because they have a climate that is different, a little bit different from Cuba, which is, you know, Cuba is very hot. But in this place, the temperatures are not that hot some points of the day, so it's very, very good. So cigars are something that is unites also the Cuban people and the Cuban people with the foreign people, because they love to smoke them.
To smoke. Okay. Yeah. I would like to know, what role do family and community play in daily life of Cubans?
Cubans are very social, you know, and I believe we cannot be alone. Family is very important. Family is something that will be with you from the day you are born until the day you are going to die. So you are always giving attention to your family, not only to your kids, because your kids are coming from you, but also to your brothers, sisters, parents, of course, and cousins and aunts, and everyone is important in the life of a Cuban, and also the neighbors, friends, of course, but neighbors is very interesting. Like in Cuba, you live in your house with your family, but also with your neighbors. You are very aware of what's happening to your neighbor, if you need to help them or they need to help you, that's going to work. Solidarity between the persons, and the community is very important. The friends, of course, but the community where you live is very, very important for a Cuban.
Did you notice some similar aspects also here in Romania?
I believe so.
Yes?
Yes.
I'm not sure about the neighbors.
I don't know about the neighbors because, well, this is the resident, we live here. But yes, I believe so also, because sometimes I pay attention to my neighbor and I know if he's not here, or if he's sick or something, and if I can offer a hand, of course. But yes, you are very family-oriented also, as we are. And I see that, and I'm happy for that, because in the modern world, people tend to forget about the importance of the family. And when the kids are already adults or young adults, they leave home, they leave the houses, and they start doing their lives. And sometimes
They
forget about
forget
what
about, yes.
is behind them, and that's sad. So I realized that here is very important to have not only to pay attention to the needs of the old people, but also to listen old people, because old people are wise. So I believe you are very respectful of that. We are very respectful of that also. So that's something that unites us, I believe. Yes.
What I noticed also, it's that we return somehow to our roots, but it's more after 30. Being very young, you need to go out in the world and explore. And after you finish exploring, let's say, you feel the need to come back to the family,
That's
to
good.
mother, father roots, and learn more about them. This is something what I
And it's
noticed.
important because you have to know where you're coming from,
Exactly.
to know where are you going. It's not, you cannot forget about that. It's history.
And actually, having them over there, it's like empowering you.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's like having a support team. Always you think, I'm doing this, I'm taking this risk, but I know I have a plan B, and they are going to support me. So it's very nice.
Yes. What inspired you to pursue a career in diplomacy? I mean, it was like something that it was a dream from very young, or it's something that developed later?
You know what? That's funny because when I was a little girl, I was 7 years old. My dream was become a ballerina. I was always dancing, and I imagined myself in the stage dancing with the Cuban National Ballet. And I even took that test to enter to the Cuban National Ballet School.
Really?
But unfortunately, I have a back problem from that time, and I was not approved. So I was very disappointed, but I was young. So I was thinking of reinventing myself. I love to write at that time poems and stories, and also to work in the host on programs at the school. So I was not very clear what I was going to do. And then when I was 18 years old, and I started looking for what am I going to do with my life, what career I'm going to pursue, I was thinking about being a scientific, because it was a time in Cuba where the biotechnology was like a boom of the industry, and it was very interesting for me. But even though I love mathematics, it was not my strong subject, I would say, and I was more leaning to do letters.
Letters, yeah.
So sometimes at that process of what I'm going to do, someone came to the school and talked about the diplomatic, the international relations career. So I applied and I was approved, and here I am. And it's very interesting, I can tell you. Yes.
It was a plan from, let's say, the universe had other plans for you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What were the biggest challenges and satisfaction you encountered at the start of your career?
The biggest challenge was the separation from my family and leaving home when I was 20. The first time I was posted abroad, I was alone, and I was like 25 years old. And I remember my nephew was a baby. I was enjoying so much. I didn't have kids at the time. I was enjoying so much my nephew. And that I took the plane and I started crying all the time. I was crying until we landed in Canada. It was the first post and so many after that. And I remember also that when we were landing, it was January. Imagine how cold it was in Canada.
In
And then when I
January.
looked around, I saw those weather that was not good, because sometimes it's nice, it's beautiful, even though there is snow.
Snow or storm.
But there was snow everywhere and was not sunny, and I was crying even more. So that was the challenge. But you get used to that, and nowadays it's easier because the communications, the IT, and everything. that those days was harder. And rewarding, I believe, is the friendship that you build in every place you go. Right now, I have friends everywhere.
All over
Everywhere
the
I have
world.
been, I have good friends that remember me. I remember them. We keep in touch, and that's very nice because that's I believe is the substitute family you find
Exactly.
in those places when you have to be away from your family
From
in
home.
Cuba. Yeah, from home. So I believe those are the biggest challenges and rewarding things for me.
Living, because you mentioned you have been in so many countries, so living in so many different countries, how did you adapt to various cultures?
Is at the beginning is sometimes it's a shock with you. I haven't been in so many countries, because I have been in Canada many times, and then I went to Tunisia in 2007. That one was the most challenging, I believe, at the beginning because it's a very different culture, but it was really nice. It's one of the experiences I have had in my life that I cherish
The most?
the most. Because everything was different, but at the same time, people were not different. They were warm, they were loving, they were caring with you. And I had so many friends there that you cannot imagine. I loved that country. I love the music, I love the food, I love everything there. So you adapt yourself, you open your mind to other reality, you manage to understand differences and to accept them. And that's the base of freedom and peace, because if you don't understand that other people have the right to think differently or act differently, completely different than the way you are used to do it, you cannot there is no tolerance and there will be violence on that. So for me, it's very important to understand how they think, why they think that way, and why they act that way. And this is amazing. And this is one of the most rewarding also things of this work.
I think knowing them better helps you to understand them better.
Exactly. And it's important even for your family because when I had kids, they were young. We went to Canada, of course. Canada is different, but it's not that different. It's more the same way that we do the things. But in Tunisia, when my kids arrived, at the beginning it was a shock, because even the food was different. And then you realize that they open their minds, and they're right now adults with a very high comprehension of the surroundings and the reality. It's very good for them.
What qualities do you consider essential for a successful diplomat?
First of everything, well, you have to prepare yourself. You have to study history of the world, of your country, because you're representing your country. And you, as you mentioned, and we mentioned before, you have to know where are you coming from and where you're going. So that's important to know history. Languages also, and but you have to be patient. You cannot be a person that you are going to explode with something that you're listening and you don't like it. You have to be patient. You have to try to understand the other one before react. And that's a key thing for the diplomat. Also, to be honest, of course, to show solidarity, to be based in the justice principles, and that's it. You have to be a good person. You cannot be a bad person in this work because you're not going to be successful and you're going to be a disaster for the country you're representing. So it's better to be like a good person. A good person is almost always very patient.
This is something that you will advise also to a young person aspiring to become a diplomat?
Yeah, for sure. They have to be, they have to study a lot. They have to prepare themselves a lot. They have to be sure that they understand the reality of their countries, to try to show that reality in other countries and to make people understand yourself and your country, because it's the first thing you have to keep in mind. You are not working for the country you are based on. You're working for your country, and you have to respect the other country, which is very, very important also. Be patient is based of the respect, and to show solidarity, try to be better every day. Try to be better for yourself, for your country, and for the people that are surrounding you in the hosted country.
I'm curious to know what are the biggest challenges Cuba faces today and how they affect the daily life.
You know, the economic situation in Cuba is very, very hard right now. It's not a secret, it's everywhere. And the first and main obstacle that we face to develop our country is the blockade of the government of the United States against Cuba, the commercial, economic, and financial blockade against Cuba that is in place since 1960. So imagine how much that blockade have cost to Cuba in terms of money, but also in terms of lives, because it's affecting the Cuban life in all the aspects. Not only is economic, because we cannot buy things in the United States. Right now we have some kind of a special permits to buy some things in the United States, which is the market, natural market for Cuba, because it's 90 miles away only. But we have to pay them in cash and in advance, which is not the normal way you trade these days. So it's affecting medicine, the health of public health, because sometimes you are going to have you need some kind of medicines for treatments, child having cancer or an adult, and you cannot buy this medicine because it's produced by a laboratory or a company that has relations with the United States. Even for planes, you cannot buy a plane that is more than 10% with components from the United States. A boat or ship that is bringing food or any kind of products to Cuba cannot go to the United States, faster go to Cuba. If it's that duties going to Cuba and it's from Europe, for example, after going to Cuba, even though they have this facility of the visa waiver, then he cannot use it and they have to apply for a visa. So it costs a lot of money to us, for everything, for schools, for everything, for commerce, and it's a crime because it's affecting the lives every day of Cuba. Now, the 29th of September and the 30th in the United Nations, the world, because it has been like that since 1991, is going to approve again a resolution that we present against the blockade. So the whole world is against this criminal policy, but it's still on. So this is the biggest challenge. I believe Cuba will be able to do so many things after this policy is eradicated. But let's see what happens. I believe with the solidarity and the support of the world, we are going to achieve that goal.
What role does cultural diplomacy play in fostering business relationships between nations?
Cultural diplomacy is very important, not only for business, for everything, I believe. Because when you are in a country where you have differences, it's not the end of the world. You can have difference, ideological, the systems are different and everything, but you can talk and you can keep the dialogue. And one way of keeping that dialogue alive is the cultural diplomacy. Because when you have cultural events, any kind, sometimes it's a movie, sometimes it's a cigar night.
Yes.
And sometimes it's a tourism fair. Those things make the people in the country you're working to know better your reality, to know better the situation, and maybe also create a curiosity for people to go to visit and to see with their eyes, not to read what is on the papers, newspapers on the internet, which sometimes is not accurate most of the times. So is at the end, you have, for example, I organize maybe a cigar night with the branch international here.
Yes.
Some people that goes every year to this cigar night, Cuban night, after that they go to Cuba. And after that, maybe they are going to start thinking about doing something with Cuba, because we have plenty of opportunities there to have investments or trade or what you mentioned, and we can do it. So it's a tool that is very, very important to do business, to promote the understanding between the countries, and also for political dialogue, because it's important to have this conversation even though you don't share the same points of view.
Can you share with us a successful example where cultural exchange directly impacted business relations?
If I'm going to talk about something here, I believe the cigar nights have been the most successful ones because it attracts a lot of businessmen.
Yes.
And I believe, very, very important to show Cuba and the way it is and the prospects of what we can do. I received after the cigars nights always requested to go to Cuba or to do something with Cuba, and it's very, very, very nice. So I believe here the cigar nights, also the tourism events. I don't organize by myself tourism events because we have a consular of tourism for the region, which is in Poland. But he participates every year in the events here of a tourism fair that you organize here in Romexpo, and also a road show that it starts in Poland and ends in, I believe, Bulgaria or Czech Republic. And here in Romania, he visited right now. He came here last week, Cluj and Bucharest. And after that, you can see how many persons are interested in going to Cuba. The number of visas, because I issue visas also.
Yes.
The number of visas grows. So it's very interesting to see how, even though we are far away and we don't have those direct flights. We have direct flights because with Turkish we have, but they have to stop in Istanbul. But it's interesting to see how many persons are encouraged to go to Cuba after that. So those are very good examples of that kind of activities that impacts the business relationship.
You mentioned some events, and I know it's a big event which will take place next month in Cuba. Mm-hmm. It's an economic fair.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about it?
Yes, from 4 to 9 of November, we are going to hold in Cuba the Cuban International Fair. It's economic oriented to business, economic trade and trade in Cuba that we do every year. This is the 40th edition of the fair. It takes place in an installation that is close to what is Romexpo here. It's very wide, very beautiful, the surroundings of the place. And there are right now I was reading that there are more than 50 countries that have accepted to participate, and more than 500 companies, from foreign companies and Cuban companies also. It's a very good opportunity for people thinking to do business in Cuba or with Cuba, to go to establish relations there, to see what Cuban companies are offering, and to see what the country is offering. It's a first step, I believe. After that, you have to go by yourself and visit the sites and visit the companies, and to see with your eyes and touch with your hands what is possible to do, but it's very, very important for us, the participation of Romania used to participate every year. Right now, last year there was some businessmen from Romania visited the fair, and I believe this year is also a number of them that are going.
What they need to do? They need to apply.
They need to contact me.
Yes, okay.
And I will pass all the information, but it's very easy. If you're not going to have a stand, it's easier because you're going to only to let them know that you're going to be there and to get your credential, and that's it. You're going to visit there. It's from 4 to 9. For the first days are for professionals, and then I believe the last day they're open for the general public. Because the people, in Cuba, like here in Romania, are very interested.
They are curious,
yes. They're curious. Yeah. So they go to the fairs, and it's very nice. It's even for young persons, young students that are studying languages or international relations or law or whatever, they participate in the fair as the edecans for these companies, and it's a very good experience to do it. So I invite you. I invite the Romanians to go as well. As you mentioned before, today is the National Culture Day, and we are having an event at the University of Brasov to celebrate the Cuban National Day. I invite people also to go if they are still on time to do it. We are going to start 10 a.m., but it's going to be a whole day of activities. We are going to have a degustation of mojitos and Cuban national dish, which is pork, and also a movie, which is a connection between Cuba and Romania, because the name of the movie is Vampires in Havana.
Oh my God, Vampires in Havana.
It's an animated movie, very funny. So if you they are going to, also because I have to mention that this Cuban students of PhD at the university are organizing everything, or almost everything there. And they are going to do also a salsa class. So it's plenty of surprises. So I invite also Romanians that are close to Brasov University to go to the
come
the
there.
Multicultural Center.
And if they want to know more about the cultural events that you are doing, on the website?
The website.
Yes.
They have to follow our website, Facebook, and also X, which was Twitter before. And because we promote the events there. So yes, we are organized. Right now we are finishing the CBU Contemporary Art Festival, our presence there. We have an exhibition, but we are going to show those paintings also here in Bucharest very soon. So keep posting, keeping attention to our website, because we're going to announce where we're going to do it.
Okay. Your Excellency, thank you again for sharing with us, for accepting our invitation, and again for hosting us in this beautiful location. And for you, if you enjoy it, please like and subscribe, and see you next time.